I have lost all sense of time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Read, Share, Repeat, where we discuss books from the perspective of an aspiring fantasy author. Me, Carrie Share. And today I've just got a fun, quick video for you. I am doing a updated bookshelf tour for you guys. Updated because I have done one of these in the past, but I've added quite a few more books since then. And quick because despite what I just said, I still don't have as many as some booktubers do. I have these two shelves right here, and then my display shelf in the hall that has all of my special editions. In my last bookshelf tour, I think what I did was I named everything on the shelf and then gave everything that I hadn't read a star prediction. I don't think I'll be doing that. I think I have a little bit too many for that to be really practical. And I wouldn't really know what to do with all of my read books anyway. So we will start with my read shelf and then move over to my unread shelf and then over to my special editions, which I will be showing you each and every one of. There's only like 20. Without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so starting with the top shelf, this is my annotated shelf. These are the books in my physical collection that I actually have annotated. It is emptier than I would like it to be by a long shot, but we're getting there. So first we have the first book in the Child trilogy called The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. Then we have the first two books, which are out of order, of the Shadow of the Leviathan series. It was once called a trilogy, but now I am not so certain that it is a trilogy, but that is The Tainted Cup and A Drop of Corruption, both by Robert Jackson Bennett. Then we have The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi by Shannon Chakraborty, The Final Strife by Sara El-Arifi, the first book of the Farseer trilogy and the Realm of the Elderling series as a whole, Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. Then we have the complete duology, Secrets of the Nile by Isabella Banez, What the River Knows and What the Library Hides. We have The Bone Orchard by Sarah A. Muller, The Ever Fabulous Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir, A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed, and this is in fact my, water damaged Illumicrate edition that I went ahead and annotated because it was damaged, but yes. Then we also have The City of Stardust by Georgia Summers, which never seems to want to stand up. And then here, serving as a little display, Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lynn Tan. Then we move on to my read books that have not yet been annotated. First up, we have Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. This is unannotated because I originally read it as a library book and then I ended up picking it up. Ditto for Senlin Ascends by Josiah Bancroft. Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo was the first book I read this year and I didn't annotate it because it's the very nice Barnes & Noble edition. Also by Leigh Bardugo, we have The Familiar. I read this originally on audio and really enjoyed it. Next is Foundryside by Robert Jackson Bennett. I still don't know why I haven't completed this series, but the reason I didn't annotate it is because I read it before I decided to annotate every book I own. Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. I originally read as an ebook and then ended up picking up physically. Piranesi, again, another book that I read before I decided to start annotating, by Susanna Clark. Then we have the first two books of the Expanse series, Leviathan Wakes and Caliban's War, both by James S.A. Corey. I read these both as library books as well on ebook, and then ended up picking up the entire series. We Hunt the Flame by Hafsa Faisal, again a library book. Same for Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia Fairies by Heather Fawcett. A Fate Inked in Blood was annotated at one time, and then I decided to unhaul it, so I pulled out all my tabs. But then I got the sequel and decided to hold on to it for now. Just as a side note, this one was a real disappointment because this was the first romantasy in which I really loved the actual romance part, but in true romantasy fashion, the heroine is dumber than a sack of hammers, and that completely ruined the second half of the book. I'm hoping the sequel fixes that because the actual romance, the banter, the sexiness was so good. That is the kind of romance I want to read in a fantasy book, but you have to do your due diligence. You have to make the plot happen without relying on your main female character being dumb as sin. Rant over. Then we have The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. This is a really nice edition as well that I found at Half Price Books. This I read like long time ago, so that's why it's not annotated. Then we have A Sorceress Comes to Call. I have no excuses for why I didn't annotate this one. This was only like late last year that I read it. Was it? No, it was early last year. I have lost all sense of time. And then we have the complete Broken Earth trilogy, starting of course with the 5th season, The Obelisk Gate, and then finally The Stone Sky. Again, a series I read before I decided to start annotating. And then here we have the completed Fallen Gods trilogy, God Killer, Sunbringer, and Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. Love this book. I am looking forward to rereading all 3 of them and annotating. I read God Killer as a library book and then immediately went out and bought them. Sword Heart by T. Kingfisher, again, another library book. I found this edition at Barnes & Noble. I don't love the blue sprayed edges, but there is a real lack of T. Kingfisher at any of my Half Price books. So when I'm at Barnes & Noble, I usually pick one up if I can. Also Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Then we have the complete book of the Ancestor trilogy, starting with Red Sister, which I have mentioned numerous times over on my other channel, and I will say it again here. Pretty much changed my life. There's a line in this book that I will one day have tattooed on my body because of how much I took the philosophy to heart. Grey Sister and Holy Sister, all by Mark Lawrence. And then The Girl in the Stars, which is the first book of a new trilogy, but set in the same world as the Book of the Ancestor. This one, though, is a YA, so don't love it. Oh, I seem to be missing What Moves the Dead is missing. I bet my daughter has it, and I bet she still hasn't read it. So we have What Feasts at Night by T. Kingfisher. What Moves the Dead should be right next to it. I will have to find that shortly. Then we have Ella Enchanted, and this is my original copy. Yes, the first copy I ever owned. And you can see is the first 2 letters of my maiden name that I wrote in it when I originally got it. So this book has been with me, one of the very few belongings of mine that has traveled with me since I was like 10 or 11 years old. This is one of my favorite books of all time. Then we have The Beautiful Ones. I talked about this on this channel, about how much of a surprise this book was to me. I loved it so much, went out and immediately got a physical copy because I think that was another library book. Then we have the complete, this is also out of order. This is what I get for trying to move things without consulting myself. Then we have the complete Scholomance trilogy, starting with A Deadly Education, The Last Graduate, and The Golden Enclaves. This is on my docket to reread in its entirety and annotate, partially because I think it would be good voice training for my main work in progress that I am writing, Seekers of Empyrean, but we'll see. I also just really love the series. Then we have Black Sun and Fevered Star. I can't remember the name of the series, but they are the first 2 of a trilogy by Rebecca Roanhorse. And then we have a non-damaged copy of A Study in Drowning that I bought for myself when the sequel came out. And then lastly on this shelf, we have Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross, The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri, and Blood over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. Divine Rivals I read before I decided to start annotating. Jasmine Throne was originally a library book that I went out and bought, and ditto for Blood over Brighthaven. And then over here we have the complete quadrilogy of the Ember and the Ashes series, which I haven't read, but is over on this shelf because I ran out of room, both on my unread shelf and on my display shelf. And that's it. Those are all the owned books that I have read. Not very many of them. Kind of sad. All right, now we are on to my unread books, and I have quite a few more than those, so we're gonna go through them really quickly. Starting up here, This Kingdom Will Not Kill Me. This one just came out, I think, by Alona Andrews. The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft. Then the second and third books of the quadrilogy, the Books of Babel, following, of course, Senlon Ascends, The Arm of the Sphinx, and The Hod King by Josiah Bancroft. I've got all 3 of my copies at half price, but I have not been able to find the 4th one. Then we have Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo, patiently awaiting its sister, the 3rd in the trilogy, which is coming out really soon, and I have forgotten the name of. Deadbeat, coming out September 15th, patiently waiting. Then we have the next two books of the Tide Child trilogy, joining the Bone Ships with the Call of the Bone Ships and The Bone Ships Wake by R.J. Barker. Then we have Gods of the Weirdwood, also by R.J. Barker. I literally know nothing about this. I can't remember if I got this in a book box or if I just picked it up because I really liked The Bone Ships by R.J. Barker. The Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley P. Beaulieu. I don't know how to say his name, I'm so sorry. Then the next two books in the Founders trilogy as well, Shorefall and Locklands. I really need to get to these, but I need to reread Foundryside first. Then the newest addition to my shelves, which is the third book in the Shadow of the Leviathan series. Once it was called a trilogy, now it's just labeled an Anna and Din mystery, which I hope means that Robert Jackson Bennett is going to write 1,000 of these. I love these books. I cannot wait to read this one. The Atlas 6 by Olive E. Blake. I have never read an Olive E. Blake book before in my life, so I have no idea if I will like it. Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey, a classic. The second book of the Rook and Rose series following The Mask of Mirrors. This one is The Liar's Knot by M.A. Carrick. I'm still on the hunt for the third book in this trilogy as well. A Letter to the Luminous Deep by Sylvie Cathrall. Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan. The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. The Swan's Daughter by Roshani Chokshi, which I found in this edition at Half Price Books. So I know literally nothing about it, but I knew I couldn't pass it up. The Foxwife by Yangshi Chu and The Rings of Fate by Melissa De La Cruz. Down here, as you can see, it's mostly just two series, but saving space, I did put The Stone Sky by Z.S. Diamante on here as well. Then we have books 3 through 9 of The Expanse, all by James S.A. Corey, and then the rest of the Farseer trilogy, Royal Assassin and Assassin's Quest, then the Ship of Magic series, the Ship of Magic, Mad Ship, and Ships of Destiny. Then we have the following trilogy, I think, Fool's Errand Gold and Fool's Fate. I am missing the quadrilogy that goes here. I have not been able to find them either at Half Price or Barnes & Noble, so I may have to resort to buying them online to complete the whole series. And then the final trilogy in the series, of course, Fits of the Fool, Fool's Assassin, Fool's Quest, and Assassin's Fate, all by Robin Hobb. All right, next we have Foul Days by Genevieve Demova, The Radiant King by David Dalglish, This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Mutar and Max Gladstone, The Battle Drum, which is the sequel to The Final Strife by Sarah El Arifi, the first book in the Faithful and the Fallen series, which I found at Half Price and decided to wait to see if I actually liked the series before I committed to buying the others, by John Gwen. Then we have the second and third books of the Bloodsworn trilogy, the first of which, The Shadow of the Gods, is currently on my TBR shelf out in the hall, which is why it is not here with its brothers, but the second and third are The Hunger of the Gods and The Fury of the Gods, also by John Gwen. Then we have We Free the Stars by Hafsa Faisal, the second book in the duology that goes with, of course, We Hunt the Flame. Engines of Empires by R.S. Ford, The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow, Servant of Earth by Sarah Hawley, The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson, The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson, Bloodbound by Ellis Hunter, the first book in the Lycanus trilogy, another situation like The Faithful and the Fallen where I just got the first one and I am wanting to see if I actually like it before I commit to several more large books. The Shadow of What Was Lost by James Islington, The Will of the Many, also by James Islington. I don't think I can escape reading this book. It is too popular. These Burning Stars by Bethany Jacobs. I've heard I really should read, especially as I am preparing for my next work in progress, which is a sapphic adventure fantasy. So I'm kind of on the hunt for books with sapphic yearning in them. I am taking Rex. The 100,000 Kingdoms by N.K. Jemisin. The World We Make, also by N.K. Jemisin, which is the second book of the duology in the, what is the name of this series? I can't remember the name of the series, but the first one is The City We Became, which is also on my TBR shelf because I have to finish reading it. I started reading it, well, twice. I started reading it at around this time last year, put it down, picked it back up at the beginning of this year, started over, and then put it down again. But to be read. The second book that goes with A Fate Inked in Blood, A Curse Carved in Bone. I don't know the name of the series either. Also by Daniel L. Jensen. Then moving down here, we have The Spear Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. The Invasion of the Tierling and The Fate of the Tierling to go with The Queen of the Tierling by Erica Johansson. The Last Shield by Cameron Johnston. The first book in the Wheel of Time series, The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. When the Tides Held the Moon by Vanessa Vida Kelly. King. Then we have, ooh, she's squeezed in there. What Stalks the Deep, the third in the Alex Easton series by T. Kingfisher, The Winged Game by Sophie Kim, A Queen in Hiding by Sarah Kolzov, Babel by R.F. Kuang, The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence, Daughter of Crows, also by Mark Lawrence. Then we have Ancillary Justice by Anne Leckie, and The Raven Tower, also by Anne Leckie, A Song to Drown Rivers by Anne Liang, and then we have both books in this duology, A Magic Steeped in Poison and A Venom Dark and Sweet by, oh, what is her name? Elizabeth? Judy I. Lin. Then we have Red City by Marie Lu, The Darkening by Sonia Mara, and then we have this entire trilogy, A Marvelous Light, A Restless Truth, and A Power Unbound by Freya Marsk. I really, really, really want to read these. I really want to get to these. Oh, I'm having to get on the ground for this one. Okay. Anji Kills a King by Evan Lakem. Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty, Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Then, of course, Harrow the Ninth and Nona the Ninth, Awaiting Its Sister Electo by Tamsin Muir. Fireborn by Rosario Munda, The West Passage by Jared Pachacek, She Who Became the Sun and He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan, Goddess of the River by Vaishnavi Patel. Sorry if I butchered that. Oh, I'm almost out of battery. Of course I am. The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reed. A Theory of Dreaming, the sequel to A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. Mirrored Heavens by Rebecca Roanhorse, the third in that trilogy with Black Sun and Fevered Star. Bloodguard by Ceci Robertson. Ruthless Vows, the sequel to Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. Scarlet Odyssey by C.T. Rawizzi. The Court of Broken Knives by Anna Smith Spark. Then we have the first three Witcher books, Blood of Elves, The Time of Contempt, and Baptism of Fire by Andrzej Sapkowski. The City of Dusk by Tara Sim, and The Justice of Kings by Richard Swan. Finally, as you can see, every last space is full. We have The Oleander Sword and The Lotus Empire by Tasha Suri. I believe this is a quadrilogy, so I still need the fourth book. Grave Empire by Richard Swan. I don't know why these are out of order, but oh well. The Heart of the Sun Warrior, which is the sequel to Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lin Tan. The Incandescent by Emily Tesh. Oh my gosh, I can't read this one. The Shrouded Queen by Ashley Tropia. I can barely read that, so sorry. The Phoenix King by Aparna Verna. The First Binding by R.R. Verdi. The Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. Project Hail Mary by, of course, the Andy Weir, and I recently had the pleasure of being able to pluck this book off my shelf and hand it to my son who was interested in reading it, and it was such an intoxicating experience that I have been pestering him ever since to ask me for more books, but unfortunately he's not taking. Then we have the first three bind-ups of the Murderbot Diaries series. I really wanted to get them all as individuals, but they've just been so hard to find out in the wild, so I just went ahead and got the bind-ups for now. Then we have The Witch King by Martha Wells. Oh yes, these are also by Martha Wells. The Witch King by Martha Wells, The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten, and then The Road of Bones, The Kingdom of Claw, Dawn of the North, all by Demi Winters, Upon a Starlit Tide by Kel Woods, and rounding it out, I don't know why she's down here, she should be way up there, but The Last Contract of Isako. The Last Contract of Isako by Fonda Lee. My battery ran out as I was trying to finish up. All right, back after a quick break to charge the camera, and we are now out here in the hall with my special editions. I hope the lighting is okay. I don't want to turn on the overhead light. Almost all of these are Fairy Loot editions, some of which I did find at Half Price Books. So getting started, we have The Stardust Thief, and the reason I am still subscribed to Fairy Loot, The Ashfire King. I did find The Stardust Thief Fairy Loot edition at Half Price Books, and it is one of the signed copies. So this was an enormous blessing to be able to find, whoops, for a fraction of the cost. And then of course the Ashfire King. Like I said, I signed up for Fairy Loot and then I stayed subscribed so that I could order the matching copy of this book. Okay, then we have This Monster of Mind by Shalini Abascara. I, like many others in this collection, know nothing about it. Weaving Shaw by Heba Al-Wasiti. The Unicorn Hunters by Catherine Arden. A Dance of Lies by Brittany Arena. Starside by Alex Astor. Gifted and Talented by Olivia Blake. Long Live Evil by Sarah Reese Brennan. The Last Starborn Seer by Venetia Constantine. Blood Scion by Deborah Ferlet, Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber, The Night and the Moth by, of course, Rachel Gillig, and I am a weirdo who prefers the original cover. I don't know that I love this one. Graceless Heart by Isabella Banez, and Teller of Small Fortunes by Julie Lung. Below that shelf is my TBR shelf, which of course holds the physical reads on my current TBR, and The Sky Bled by S. Hadi, Shadow of the Gods by John Gwen, and City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. And then there is, of course, Katabasis by R.F. Kuang that I am currently reading, so it's not up here. And then finally, we have my last shelf of special editions here. We have a second copy of The Winged Game by Sophie Kim. We have Forged by Blood and Exiled by Iron by Egabor Okuson. We have The Courting of Bristol Keats by Mary E. Pearson. Dawn of the Firebird by Sarah Mughal Rana. Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. And then easily the fattest book I've ever gotten from Fairy Loot, Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu. The Night Ends with Fire by K.X. Song. The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart. Deathbringer by Sonia Tagliareni. Immortals by Su Lin Tan. And then not a Fairy Loot edition, but still a very nice sprayed edge hardcover of Heavenbreaker by Sarah Wolf. Fallen City by Adrienne Young. And last but not least, The Scorpion and the Night Blossom by Amelie Wen Zhao. And then if we go further down, you can see my entire collection of Fruits Basket and the first 13 or let's see, several editions of Cardcaptor Clear Card. And then below that, we just have some nonfiction and some other random books there. And so that wraps up this very short, I hope, bookshelf tour. I am actively working on knocking out more of these unread books so I can shift them to the unread shelf, but I have been considering doing a bookshelf reorganization of late. I'd love your tips on how I can best utilize this space. But until then, thank you so much for watching. I so appreciate it. If you like my content and want to support the channel, please like and subscribe or consider leaving a comment down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave me a book stack emoji. In my next video, I will have my first reading vlog for you in